Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome along to the Fans Q&A, the second one of the season. And great to see you all here in person as well, rather than online. Far, far better to have you here in the flesh, so to speak. So we have the full range of club managements, directors, chairman and other staff here for you tonight to ask your questions too. Before we get into the full format of the evening, we'll tell you all about what's happening before we get underway. But first of all, a word from Falkirk chairman Gary Deans.
Thank you. I didn't expect any applause whatsoever, so thanks for that. Not everybody clapped, I'm not banking on anything. As Dave said, great to see as many people coming along here. It's been far too long since we've been able to get together. Okay, we've got together at the stadium, but everything else has been over Zoom ever since, well, we all know, the last 20 months. So it's fantastic to see so many people coming along and showing the pride that they've got in the club, as we all do. So tonight it's about answering your questions. It's about taking difficult questions as well as easy questions. Hopefully there's some easy ones as well as some difficult ones. But we're not here to hide. We're here to give you the answers that we can. Can we answer absolutely everything? Probably not. Can we answer it honestly? Absolutely. What we'd ask in return is for you to be respectful, polite, and give us the space to be able to answer as we want to be able to answer. We'll get through it that way and make sure we can all get to the end of the evening cohesively, because that's what we all want. We want the club to get better. It's a difficult time. It would have been far, far easier, we've said this often ourselves, far, far easier to do this Q&A about 6 weeks ago, when everything was looking pretty rosy. But I'm grateful for everybody coming along, you included, but I'm grateful for everybody coming along tonight and showing that we can answer the questions when we need to answer the questions, even in the difficult times. I'm not going to say very much more. I'll probably answer a few questions tonight, but I'm going to introduce the top table tonight. From your right, my left, and a special welcome because it's the first time as Falkirk directors and Falkirk shareholders that they've been able to travel to Falkirk and visit us in our town that we love so much and see our stadium for the first time. Phil Rollins. Carrie Rollins. Now here's the test. A round of applause for Gary Holt, Paul Sheeran, Gordon Colbourn. You needn't put the volume up as I go along the table here. Colin McFarlane, Jamie Swinney, and Gordon Wright. To start the evening, I'm going to ask Gordon to say a few words. I've said an awful lot over the last 20 months, 24 months. I've been on the board since June 2019. Some of you, many of you will know. So I've been on the board since June 2019. Became chairman at the Christmas of 2019, and it's not been easy ever since. From June 19 on all the way through. And if we want to explore any of these kind of things, we'll explore them as well. As I say, nothing to hide, and we'll tell you as honest as we can. Gordon.
Thanks, Gary. Can everyone hear me okay? Up the back? Yep. So I drew the short straw for this, unfortunately. Gary said didn't want to say too many words. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Gordon Colbourn. I was a member of the patrons group who made a bid to buy the club 2 years ago under the Mark Campbell fiasco. And of course we know what happened to that. That didn't go through. Despite that, I was given the opportunity to come onto the board as one of the fans. I've been a Falkirk supporter since I was a young boy. My dad was a Falkirk supporter. My son's a Falkirk supporter. My grandkids will be brought up as Falkirk supporters, so it kind of runs in the family. I realise as well that I'm now in a very privileged position, a position that I probably never thought I would ever have in my life, the opportunity to serve on the board of our football club. And I think it's very important to say that I take the responsibility that goes with that position very, very seriously. And I think we all do, but I want to make that clear. I've witnessed the good times, as a Falkirk fan. I've been to 3 Scottish Cup finals. I remember going to the first one with my son, and I said, you better make the most of this, because the last time we were in a Scottish Cup final was the year I was bloody born. And he's seen 3 in his lifetime. And of course, we didn't win any of them. It wasn't my fault, but we didn't win any of them. And I've also been at cup finals that we've won. Unfortunately, they were B&Q Cup finals, but nevertheless, they were cup finals. So I've witnessed the good times, I've witnessed the bad times, and I understand absolutely why at this point in time there is so much unhappiness amongst many of the Falkirk fans. I feel it, we all feel it, we're part of it. And there isn't a member of this top table that doesn't feel that way. However, as Gary said, if things change very, very quickly in football. If we had held this forum 6 weeks ago, I think the sentiment in the room would have been very different. I'm not saying that some of the tough questions that you guys have got, which we're quite prepared to answer, we wouldn't have had some of them 6 weeks ago, but we've got them today, and we're more we're more prepared to answer them than we ever were. So that's how quickly things change. We understand that. The reality is, when I joined the board, I think I joined a club that has been in decline for several years. And that's the sad fact of the matter. This is a club that has been in decline for several years. And the challenge that we all face in rebuilding it is not insignificant. It's tough, and it's not going to happen overnight. And everyone needs to play a part in that. We recognise as board members that we are accountable. We're accountable for the strategy of the club. We're accountable for putting the foundations in place and the ability in place for the club to be successful, and we need to be held accountable for that. Gary Holt and Paul Sheeran, the management team on the football side, they need to be held accountable for the recruitment of the right players, the ability to put them on the park, play attractive football that wins games, and bring through the youth of tomorrow, which was one of our key pillars of the strategy of the football club, and bring them through and give them an opportunity to play in the first team. And we've already seen that happen. But they're held accountable for the ability to deliver that. The chief executive's held accountable. Jamie's held accountable for what happens in the day-to-day running of the club, the ability to put all of the things in place that allow us to do what we need to do. That's bringing in commercial funding, that's managing the costs of the club, it's creating an engagement with the fans and the community, and many, many other things. Jamie's eyes have certainly been opened since he joined the club as to the scale of that challenge. And finally, but probably most importantly, the supporters, you and all the other fans of the club, are accountable. You're accountable as well for many things. Falkirk's a community club. It's a family club. It's an inclusive club, and quite frankly, some of the behaviours that we've seen in the last few weeks, as many of you, I'm sure, will agree, are not consistent with those values. And I'm sure you don't condone that. The fans in general don't condone that, and we don't find many of them acceptable. When it extends to the level of personal abuse, attacks, threats, that's behaviour that's out of order. We've got families, when they talk to me about bringing their kids to the game, and they say, I'm not bringing my kids to this game. You feel ashamed. I feel ashamed that we expose some of them to what we're seeing on a Saturday. And yeah, I might not like it, but that's the reality. We're trying to bring young kids into the football ground. We're trying to encourage a family atmosphere at the football ground. We're trying to be inclusive, and it's some of the behaviours that we're seeing right now, for the vast majority of fans, I believe are unacceptable. So we understand the frustration that exists today. We get it. I get it. We understand it, and we share it. However, we've got to be in a place where supporters support the club. They support the team. We can't have conditions where players are frightened to do things on the park because they're going to be booed for that. Guys, you might not want to hear that, but Okay. Well, if you don't want to hear that's fine. I'm only telling you what. Yeah, we're there as supporters to encourage the players to play to the best of their ability. And we're perfectly, Paul and Gary will answer those questions about what's happening on the park. We're supporters. We're supposed to support that team. Yeah? Okay. Right. All I'm saying is, and I'm sure that's true. That's good. Absolutely.
We're 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in, guys. We need to get through and we need to answer all your questions. I'm asking you to give us the space to be able to talk about these kind of things and to be able to answer these kind of questions. There's a need for us to be able to pull together. Gordon's point, on Saturday, we had some people coming along, youngsters that we want to be able to attract. And if they're sitting watching and their parents are sitting watching, is this a team that they want to be able to join? This is an environment they want to be able to join. We'll lose, we know, and we'll come back to the details. But we're losing some people. We've lost some people, some players. Right. Okay. So ever since I've joined the board, we've needed, ever since I've. Do you want to talk or do you not want to talk? Right. Could we please, as I said at the beginning, be respectful. Try and give us a space to be able to answer the questions properly and not talk over each other. Okay? We're not being disrespectful for the fans. Well, no, we've not. Well, let's make one thing clear, because there's this recurring theme that we're blaming fans. We're not blaming fans. We are not. No. Could you let me finish, please? We're not blaming fans. What we're saying is there are certain behaviours that are unacceptable and not helpful to the collective.
They're probably not here.
Good. That's good. Right. Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I just come in there very quickly? We'll take questions so we can sort of discuss these things, hopefully on a one-on-one without too many voices, so we can hear what's going on. Thanks, guys, for that. A few housekeeping things. First of all, I have to tell you about if you want the toilet, out that door at the back there, and it's straight in front of you. You can't miss it. The bar's open. There are no fire drills booked in for tonight either, so if there is a bell goes off, it is a genuine one, and run like hell, basically. Okay, so the reason I'm calling this now is because we have got loads of questions to get through, both in the room tonight, and there's also loads came in via the email channel as well that was put up on the club website, and that's being handled by Lewis Connolly of Falkirk TV up the back there. He's got his iPad, which is rammed with questions. So the way we're going to do this is we'll have one question from the room, one question from the fans who have emailed questions in, and we'll do it alternatively that way all night. Also, if you've got friends, family that couldn't be here tonight, this is being filmed by Falkirk TV this evening, and it can be watched again tomorrow night, where it'll be available free to view for all Falkirk supporters. So that's where we are. Okay, we're going to start with a question from the room, and we'll just go right to the front here. Jack's got the microphone for this area, and Lewis has got the microphone for the back. Can you just give us your name, please, and then you can ask your question. Thank you.
No problem. My name's Bryce Dixon, and I've been a Falkirk supporter for about 20 years. And just like Phil and Gary, it's alright, I've got my own document with bullet points on it. Gary Deans was appointed as chairman in December 2019. Since then, Falkirk FC have played 58 games. In that spell, we've had 4 different managers. Your win rate stands at 43.1%. To win League One, you've got to have 50% or more. Partick Thistle 50%, Raith Rovers 53, Arbroath 55. Let's take the past 36 games, where you've got one, which is equivalent to one full season. We're on a win percentage of 33. Dumbarton finished second bottom last year with a win percentage of 32. So it's getting worse. You've mentioned it yourself, continually poor recruitment. We've signed 29 players since your spell. Majority not good enough. Examples: Rafa De Vita, Josh Todd, Anton Dowds, Akil Francis. So you've implemented a new model of recruitment, which has made us sign one player from Alloa who finished bottom of the championship and isn't good enough. Two players from Morton, second bottom of the championship. One good enough, one undecided. A player for Cove Rangers who wasn't even a regular starter. One player for Partick Thistle who's continually injured. Jamie Wilson, who's now out on loan. There's 4 strikers at the club who have a combined 18 goals between them over the past 3 seasons. Not good enough. Taking quotes from yourself, you said, "Me stepping aside would not make a positive difference for the club in terms of taking it forward. In fact, I think it would have the reverse effect." I would argue you're wrong. And at what point do we get to, at what stage do we get to where there is serious change happening and somebody does say, "I've had enough, I've been wrong, I should step out of this"?
Gary Deans.
It was a statement, not a question. First of all, or that's what I heard. It was a statement first. Right. Well, okay. Right. I'll answer the question. What change has there been since I started? Since I came into the club? And I'll go back to the personal here. What change has there been? I'm the only person here since June 19. The only one. Everybody else has changed. So you look along the boardroom table, you look around the boardroom table, you look along the top table. I'm the only one. So there's been massive change. Massive change. A lot of the players that you were talking about, and we'll come on to this in terms of recruitment, and so there's a lot of questions that I'm not going to answer directly because we're going to answer them later on, and I want Paul and Gary and others to be able to talk about recruitment. But I'll give you a story about player recruitment. So for some of the players that you talked about, the first transfer window I was involved in, and sorry Colin, I'm stealing your thunder for later on. The first transfer window I was involved in after I became chairman, Lex Miller was in charge of the recruitment alongside David and Lee. It was an absolute disaster. I sat in that room and I left the room terrified because I didn't see any structure towards what we were doing, and I didn't see that around the boardroom table either. So what did I do? And it's not just me, there was all sorts of people involved in that, including a lot of the people who are around here tonight. We cleaned it out. But that takes time. To what Gordon said earlier on, it takes time. Do I believe, there's almost a position of, do I believe that I can make fundamental change within the club? No, I don't, because I'm not that good to be able to make it on my own. I need a collective, and I need all of you to make that kind of change alongside me in the club. If I step aside, somebody else takes that seat, and the circumstances of taking that seat are just going to be exactly the same. So it doesn't make a difference who's sitting in this seat as chairman. Believe me, it really doesn't. We've been through umpteen number of chairmen, umpteen number of board members, umpteen number of managers, to your point, and umpteen number of sign-ins. So we've got something fundamentally wrong as a club over many, many years, and it's not about the individual. If I thought that me standing aside and moving off would make a fundamental difference, I would do it tomorrow. But I really don't believe it does. And I'll tell you one thing more, if I did stand aside, I'd get my life back. And I would enjoy my Saturdays more than I'm doing at the moment, because I'm not enjoying a Saturday, you're not enjoying a Saturday, so we're all in the same boat here. So the individual is not the issue here, it's the structure that we're trying to do for the longer term, and to try and structure the club to recover from the past, whatever many years it is, 10 years. So I'm open-minded about whether I can make a difference or not. And whether I've made a difference or not, positive or negative, that's up for you. And I'm not going to hide from that. But I really genuinely don't think that any one of us, collectively, if we put us in the same seat, would make any significant difference. My role is to be able to manage the board and pull that together, and to try and support these guys to be able to do what they can do in the pitch, and to try and repair this club to take it back to where we all want it to be. I want it to be. You've been a Falkirk fan for 20 odd years. I've been a Falkirk fan, just by a function of age, for 50 odd years. I want my club back to where it should be. And I'm trying my best to do that. If it's not good enough, I apologise.
Can I just
Colin
go back-
McFarlane, okay.
Yeah, sorry. Bryce, I want to come back to your question, because what you've said is you've hit the nail on the head. Recruitment at this club over the past 4 or 5 years has been shocking, absolutely shocking. Right? Yeah, right. Well, I'm going to get to the point. Right, well, can I get a chance to answer? Then you can disagree with me, but at least give me the space to answer, and then you can come back at me, and I'll let you to come back to me, Bryce, with your thoughts. But the recruitment over the past 4 years has been terrible. We can all agree on that. But what are we doing? What are we going to do? We're going to just keep sacking managers, getting rid of 12 players every season. We've shown year after year after year that doesn't work. That just gets us back into this position. We sack Paul, we get rid of all the players. It's not going to work. We need a level of stability. And the only way that we're going to get that is to improve our recruitment process. Now, I'll hand over to Gary and Paul, and they'll talk you through the recruitment process. Now, are we going to get every single player right? Absolutely not. No club in the world gets every single player right. But I'll give you some examples. I've jotted some down. Right, well, let me come back to some specific examples. You want specific examples of recruitment and whether it's improved or not. So put your hands on your heart and tell me, Ryan Wilson a better player than Scott Mercer? For me, yes. Right, well, there you go, Shea. You're agreeing with the point, and I've got a list there.
Order, guys. Just let the guy
Nesbitt,
speak, please. Thank you.
if you're not going to give me a chance to speak, Aidan Nesbitt, a better player than Robbie Leach. Come on, there's ample examples of things that we can go through. The recruitment's improved. But is it perfect? No, it's not. And you're not going to get it perfect the first time. Now, we've brought in Gary to do our role. And we've brought in Paul to do our role. They need space to do it. You can't judge people after 10 games. We know the 10 games, they need to be improved. Paul will say that himself, Gary will say that himself, but they need space and time to change things.
Colin, we're going to go to the online questions just now. Lewis, your first question from our emailers, please.
Let me just start with an apology. We have approximately 60 questions that have come in online. We're never going to get through them all. A lot of them are duplicated, as you can imagine, so we've tried to pick out some of the more pertinent ones. There are 11 questions all around the board taking some accountability.
Lewis, just quickly put your mic a bit closer to your mouth so we can...
Sure.
Thank you.
There are 11 questions around the board taking accountability for what many fans see as mistakes. We've had questions from Ryan Cruz, Bill Jones, Alan Johnson. The one we're going to go with to start is from Stuart Stanfield. He says he's aware this is a bit close to the bone, but the current climate requires hard-hitting questions. And his question is, in light of the current board highlighting previously that their additions at board and management levels would help the club, quote, be a more professional club, how does it feel and look like from the outside that nepotism is rife in the ranks and really we are being run like a boys' club, and at what point do the people in charge take responsibility for their mistakes?
Gary.
I'll go back to what I said earlier on. Is there nepotism? And I'll let Paul and Gary answer this. Absolutely not. And I'll let them explain. Absolutely not. 100% not. We wouldn't put up with that. So we're not running as a boys' club. We're looking to be able to professionalise as much as possible. We've brought in Jamie. Is Jamie a step up, to Colin's point? Is Jamie a step up in terms of professionalism, how we're approaching contract negotiations internally, commercial side of things, with an ambition to be able to grow our commercial income? Yes, absolutely. So we're trying everything to be able to put in place an infrastructure that's stronger than what we've had before. And that'll take, as we keep on saying, it takes time. Football doesn't give you time. We appreciate that and we know that. But there's no self-interest, to go back to the question about nepotism, there's no self-interest in us being nepotistic and giving jobs for the boys. That's not what happens. So we will hold ourselves accountable and we'll hold everybody else accountable. There's an undercurrent here, and I'm hesitating going down this road. Accountable to everybody, or to I suspect to the questioner, is walk. It's not about being held accountable and standing in front of you and trying to answer your questions honestly. It's get out. That's what that question means. So we've not succeeded. So sack somebody. Let the heads roll. To Colin's point, and Gordon Wright will have some stats for you later on if we get round to that. How many changes do you want? How many times do you batter your head off? Now, how many times do you batter your head off the same brick wall expecting things to be able to change? It doesn't change if we keep on doing the same things that have been unsuccessful time and time and time again. And the stats that have been used already about the number of managers, the number of players, the number of directors, it's astonishing. I'm being a bit flippant and I've not done the analysis. Why do teams raise their game against us every time we play? Why? Because, well, no, I know, let me finish the point. Why do teams raise the point? I've not done the scientific analysis. These guys maybe have. It's because we've got ex-Falkirk players playing for almost every single team that we come up against, and they're all trying to prove a point against us. Now that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the other team, and I'm not disrespecting Falkirk, and I'm not disrespecting the other team. But we've got teams. We've got so many players playing for our competition. It's unbelievable. Why? Because we bring so many people in through a revolving door and shove them out the other side, and we don't have any consistency. We can pick on individual circumstances, but you look at the number of players that are playing against us, and that's not the point. I'm not saying that they're good teams because we've got ex-Falkirk players in them. What I'm saying is we've got this. It's an unbelievable number of ex-Falkirk players out there, and it just shows the numbers that we've had going through the door. It's incredible.
Okay, Gary, back into the room again. We'll go one further back. Gentleman with the white hair there. Lewis, you've got the microphone. You can hand across here, please. Thank you very much. Somebody let Lewis out, please. Yeah, pass it over. That's easier. There we go. Again, just give us your name, please, and then your question. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Ken Hutton. Thank you for the opportunity to ask you a question. I actually have another appointment, so I have to leave soon. So thanks for the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. Look, guys.
Be a bit closer to your mouth, please. That's it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We've been through this for 10, 15 years. More, was it 10 years, is it more? We get to this crisis every September, every October, every November. Last year we imploded in November. This year, well, different opinions, but we're not doing too well and it's October. We have a window to get it right. But can we get it right? Over the last few years, Gary, board, you've spent most of your time looking at constitutional and ownership issues. You took your mind off the ball. The only thing that matters is be objective. Get a team on the field that can win. That's what matters. Be objective. Now, you say, Gary, changing faces won't help. Yeah, you might have a point. However, in the past, the chairman hires another chairman. The chairman hires another board member. Each one is a clone of the one before. All the people in the higher ranks, the echelons of management, they're all clones. Real change doesn't happen. You need to get some people leading the club who are objective-minded and know about the one thing that matters, football. Yeah. Finally, we have a fantastic support. We're in the top 10 supported clubs in Scotland. We're better than a lot of Premier League teams. However, you've assembled an administration which costs, I don't know, 250 grand a year. The cost of your administration is almost as much as your season ticket holders. So, what can we do about it? We've got a weather window here. Get it right in the next couple of months. You haven't been able to get it right so far, but get it right in the next couple of months. To do so, Gary, I don't know what you can do. But I don't know if you can make the dance off, pal. Paul, the jury's out. We don't know. I think you've overfunded the administration. You've underfunded the team. Right? So just finally,
Okay.
so immediately you need to address the team on the field and get it right quickly. Now, is there an AGM coming up soon? I believe there is. When the AGM comes up, the directors have a long look in the mirror and think about, can you lead this team? Thank you.
Thank you. Colin.
Ken, there was obviously a lot of things in there, so I just jotted down a couple that I wanted to address quickly. And the first one was the constitutional issues, and I get what you're saying about that. But when we first joined the board, what was the big thing that people were certainly speaking to me about was the role and the influence of the MSG. So we had to address that issue. That was a massive issue at the time. So we would have been criticised if we hadn't addressed it, and now you're giving us criticism for addressing it. So that's one point. Clones, I'll be a wee bit offensive, I'm probably about 30 years younger than the rest of the board members, and I think I'm probably one of the youngest board members that's ever been at the club, so I don't think... Oh, go for it. If there's somebody younger, absolutely. You don't even know what age you don't even know what age I am, Ken, but that's fair enough. Anyway, and then your point about football people on the board, exactly the reason that we recruited Gary Holt, because as Gary's earlier point said, football decisions were being made by Lex Miller, and everyone will have their opinion on Lex, and that's fair enough, but that's how football decisions were made at this club before we joined the board, and we needed football experience to advise us on the board, and that's exactly the reason that we recruited Gary Holt.
Okay, pass it on to Gary. Gary Holt, ladies and gentlemen.
I just want to say I can't dance, right? So get that out the way then now, Ken. Okay. I know that. Don't worry. Speak up if you want to speak. Don't be behind your hand. Right. Okay. So you can go through every game, right? So, aye. But that's what I want to get on to. Okay, if you let me speak, and we can have a bit of banter back and forth, right? To talk about my role, right? Let's get out there and let's make it clear. I do not pick the team. Okay? I do not pick the tactics. I do not pick the subs. I have zero influence in the football team. Okay? I have a big influence in the recruitment, and I'll hold my hands up. You don't get them all right. Okay? But to give you stats, to go back to your point, okay? Last 3 years at this club, our club, okay? The biggest turnover in Scottish football. 65 players have come in the door. 65. How many have walked out? 63. 13 staff have walked through the door and 13 staff have left. Now that ain't sustainable in any business. Whether what's we're doing, not doing, right? We're looking at what has happened and try to make it right and make it changes. So yeah, let's bring a sporting director in to help. Now whether yous all wanted me or don't want me, I got the job. So I've got to give it my best and give it my all for yous, and that's what I'm trying to do. But will I get it right all the time? No, I won't. I won't. I'll get mistakes wrong, I'll get things wrong, I'll get signings wrong as well. Okay? But I ain't going to hide from it. So like we said, right, so 6 weeks ago if we had this, right, would you have been sitting there saying who we got right? So you're saying Nesbitt's not right? Leo McCann? Doesn't lose many headers, so you obviously don't watch the games then. Right, watch the games, okay, so let's go back to the recruitment, right? That's fine, okay. Aye, but what I'm trying to say, guys, right, and ladies and gentlemen, is going on about recruitment, okay, and putting profiles in place and looking at how we try and recruit players, okay. As I said, 65 players have come in through that door, 63 have left. We've got 2 left in 3 years of football. You can't handle that, you can't sustain that, you can't build a team, you can't build success through a revolving door of footballers. So we put a plan in place and looking at bringing the age of the squad down, first and foremost, having a longevity of 2 and 3 year deals to protect the club, hopefully some sellable assets. Hopefully, with Paul's tutelage, making them better. Well, let me hit you with a start, right? You're going about Jamie Wilson, right? How many goals did Jamie Wilson score last year in the league? Right, how many did Aidan Keener score? No, look, wait there. How many did Anton Dowd score? How many did Anton Dowd score? Right, but that's what I'm saying to you. So we're building a squad, right? Now, is Jamie Wilson one that we thought was going to come in and start every week? Well, I'm not going to go into David Goodwillie one, right? And I don't think that's for me to talk about. I don't think we even want to encourage it, okay? So it's nothing personal. I like David as a player, okay? So I'm not going to go into that, okay? So recruitment-wise, we're looking at this group. So do we continue doing what we're doing, get loads of players in, end the season, doesn't work, scrap them. And I've been told not to swear, so I do apologise, okay? Scrap those. So guess what? We're back doing the same again. And if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And that's League One football. No. Definitely not. Seriously, you think that? Well, that's why football's about opinions.
Gary, let's call it there for a wee second just so we can get another question, because there's loads of stuff happening online as well. Lewis, can we get another question from the online guys, please? Thanks, Gary.
Sure, so we have an email in from Paul Conahan, and he's saying, do the board see any specific changes at the club as contributing in a large way to the complete collapse in form since the start of 2021, and what is the biggest factor as they see it in the lack of progress for the first team despite the fact they have hired a sporting director?
Okay, is that one for the footballing guys? Yeah, Gary?
Can you repeat that, Lewis, please? I was having a drink of water.
So it's two parts. So do the board, and not you specifically, do the board in general see any specific changes at the club that have contributed in a large way to the complete collapse in form since the turn of 2021, and what is the biggest factor as they see it in the lack of progress for the first team despite the fact we have hired a sporting director?
Is that me answer that? I don't know.
I would say it's probably more the board than yourself, Gary.
Okay. Gary Deeds.
I think there's, honestly, I think there's two phases to that. And we've discussed this as a board. January, we were on Christmas, whatever it was, we had the chance to go 10 points clear under David and Lee, and we didn't take it. We sat down with David and Lee, I can't remember, Gordon, when was it? December, November, something like that, or after the East Fife game, whenever that was, and we questioned them about where we were going and what was going to stop the decline. We then had, and we didn't, it didn't stop. So there was a slide. Now it goes back to, and that was before Gary came in, and when we were looking, and we'll maybe touch upon why when Colin said it, why we need a football director, why do we need somebody with football expertise? Because we're sitting there having a look at that and saying, well, David and Lee can tell us what they think, and Ken's point about having football directors or having somebody in the building that's got that kind of level of experience. The last person we had was Alex Smith. That was doing that kind of role. We brought in other people. We tried to bring in other people, and they weren't going to work. Either they weren't joining us, or we got one spectacularly wrong. I'll go back to that in a minute, because that goes to the constitutional piece. Sorry, I'll just take that on now. I'm rambling a wee bit, but stay with me. The constitutional piece that Colin talked about, the reason that we had to be able to fix that, the reason we had Alan Gow as a football director, was it was forced upon us. He was forced upon us, and he was forced upon us with circumstances that I'm not going to go through. But there was stuff going on over the last 2 years and more. All the time that I've been on the board, there's this constant fight, constitutionally, shareholders, fans wanting to be able to buy in, takeovers, whatever you want to be able to say. So I get Ken's point about that there's been a lot of focus on the constitutional stuff to be able to get it right or to be able to fix it. But we needed to, because this club was slipping down the wrong road in terms of its ownership structure. And that was a key thing for us, that this is our club, it's not slipping into the wrong hands. We need to make sure that it's maintained in the right hands. So, Yeah, there was a lot of concentration in that, and we ended up with Alan Gow because of that constitutional issue. That wasn't a football decision. That was because we were forced into that situation. And do I regret it? 100%. Absolutely 100%. And I would never have never go down that road again. I fell out with a lot of people over that. But that's done. So do I think we've got the right person? Absolutely. Do we need that football expertise to be able to come in and fix it? Absolutely. Go back to my point about January. So we had that phase of it was still starting to slide, and then they closed us down. And we were closed down for whatever it was, 6-8 weeks or whatever, and then we started again. And forgive me, I'll get the dates wrong. Mid-March, whenever it was, and it got no better. By that time we had, and genuinely, this is not excuses. We had the wrong team, bad injuries. You couldn't believe the roster of injuries that we had. Every game we seemed to pick up another injury. So we were weak, very, very weak. We were reliant on very, very young players, and it slid. So we know where that ended up. Some of the worst moments of my football supporting life, sitting watching these last 5 or 6 games of last season. It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So skip forward. We cleared all that out, and David and Lee left us. And they over the summer we brought in Paul, Gary was there, so we had that instigation, and we started to slide. First 3 or 4 games of the season, including the League Cup games, but the League Cup was obviously hit with COVID, we hit the ground running. And we've had the discussion today on a quarterly review, because we said we were going to do a quarterly review. We're 10 games into the season. What went right for the first 3 or 4 games, and then what went wrong, and why is it going wrong? I'm going to hand to Paul, because we spoke about this earlier this afternoon, because we do speak about these kind of things. We've not got our head in the sand and saying everything's right. So I'll let Paul answer what he thinks. Why is the change in form happening?
I wish I had the answer to that, in all honesty. Firstly, I accept total accountability. Gordon talks about that, so I'm more than accountable for a Saturday at 3 o'clock, and I totally understand your frustration with that at the moment. Saturday aside, I think there has been a mixture of positive performances without the results. Montrose being one, away there 2-2. Saturday unacceptable when we go behind. I felt a real tension to our game, and was really struggled to get back into that. But the bottom line is, we need you. We need you as a staff. We need you as a group of players. Absolutely loved my first league game of the season up at Cove. Players in amongst you involved with yous when we got the goal. And I'm doing all I can to make it better. I know I'm obviously learning. It's my first full-time appointment, so I'm learning week in, week out how to be better, how to try and make things better. We'll continue to do that, and if it's good enough, which I trust that in time it will be, in time I really do think we'll get there with it. Yes, we'll have to get better at the top end of the pitch. I understand that as well, and I'm not daft enough to stand here and suggest any different. What was that, sorry? Yeah, totally. The blend's no right. The mix of the build and my style of play that I'm trying to implement is opening us up more than I need to. So again, I need to learn on that. I totally understand that. Individual errors have been costly as well. But all I can say is just, as frustrated as you are, try and continue to give us your support, because that's the most important thing, and the players, the early part of the season, thrive off that. Again, I understand that they gave you something to get excited about, and like I say, all I can do is keep trying to make it better. I know I harp on about that, and I'll continue to do what I can Monday to Friday, but again, Saturday's the most important bit, but we'll do all we can to make it better for the club.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, back to the room again. Let's go. We've not had one from this side yet, so this Jack, got the microphone there. This gentleman here, please. Your name first and your question. Thank you.
My name's Graham Stewart. I've followed, I'm now 57. I've followed the club since I was 7, so I've followed the club for 50 years. Paul, I like you as a manager. I think you're a good, honest guy. And I think with a bit more money and investment in the team, I think you can do it. But Gary, would you not agree there's too many chiefs at the club? We need to reduce the spending on the chiefs. Give it the money to Paul. And I'm not going to get personable here about who's wrong and who's right, because I'm not going to start slinging mud here. There's too much money spent in the back room. There should be more money given to Paul to do what he wants to do. I think he's a decent guy, but he's not getting supported. And I think really we need to, because I'm worried about this. Honestly, we're on a slippery slope. Paul, I totally respect your attitude about getting a draw at Montrose. But see, a few years ago, we beat Montrose 6 or 7-0. Come on, we're better than that.
Yeah, I totally get that, but 2-0, that's bit your arm off for 2-2.
No.
On the supporting bit, I couldn't be more grateful for the support I've been given now. The finances at the top end of the club, that I can't explain. The budgets and things are difficult. Everybody's felt a difficult time over the last 18 to 22 months, however it's been with COVID. So we're all feeling that. I understand that, but in terms of support, and I know you don't want to mudsling, and I get that, but I can't give any more credit to the club and the way they've supported me and what I want to do as a manager. Now, finances are dictated by different things at different times, so I'm more than comfortable when I came into the job that the budget was competitive. Now it's up to me to make things right come a Saturday. That's the bottom line, and I'll continue to try and do that.
Paul, I respect what you're saying, right? Total respect. And fun enough, I think there is a place for Gary Holt at the club, and I think it's youth. I personally think you should be the one that doing all the recruitment, the manager, because I think it's important in any job. If I was a manager of a sales team, I would want to recruit my sales staff. And I think it's important that you are the one, and there's before Gary takes the thing, there is a place for Gary Holt at this club because he's a good, honest guy, and I personally think it's in the youth setup. I think he knows a player, and I would like to see you being involved more with the recruitment.
I am involved in the recruitment. Obviously, when I wasn't in the job, I couldn't be involved in the recruitment, and the club had to make a start on that because they never had a manager in place, so that process had to be underway, otherwise we would have been left behind a wee bit. So that was a given. In terms of Gary's role, I think there needs to be a wee bit more clarity to that role. It takes actually a lot of pressure off me, and I'm just lining myself up for more flack here, really. The fact that what I'm doing is based around the training pitch and nothing more than that. And it's actually quite refreshing that as a manager you're not having to deal with agents, deal with the trials that come with being a manager, and certain managers that run the whole thing. It's a non-stop, constant event, and sometimes on your eye then gets taken off the ball in terms of training and things. So I've got the full responsibility of that, and basically the sporting director takes all the other rubbish away from my role. It allows me to concentrate on the football side of it. So it's pretty refreshing for me actually that I've got that, and I don't have the same pressures as certain managers have.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, we're going to take some...
2 seconds. We did recruitment in the summer. Now, it wasn't a reactive recruitment. We're very proactive, and we did a lot of pre-contract signings because we knew what we were trying to build, and that's the way we're going to try and do it. But Paul's fully inclusive in that process. I don't go out and sign players and go, there you go. That's not what my role is. Okay, my role is working with the head of recruitment to identify players. Then we look at them. Then we say, and I'll give you a wee instance of how it happens. It's 3 people have eyes on within the club, within the department, before we decide, and then we sit down and correlate the evidence and the analysis and the data before we decide and look at, is it better than what we've got within the squad? And if it's somebody Paul would like. It's not me. I have a big hand. I deal with the contracts, I deal with the agents, I deal with, and I don't want to swear, the dug stuff that comes out the other end, so that man doesn't have to. So that man there can concentrate on what the product is on the pitch to try and get us out the league. That's the biggest thing. So it's a hand-in-hand operation. The stuff that was done beforehand, a fair few of the pre-contracts, was we didn't know who the manager was. And we didn't want to have the situation that Gary spoke about before, where what had happened in the previous season, a week before the start of the season, who do we need? We need a right back. Oh, right, he's available. Oh, we need a striker. Let's go and get him. Who, untried, untested, never looked at, never had eyes on. And don't get me wrong, there is a reactive market and there is a proactive market. So there is people come in and trial that you don't really know too much about. Hence the fact that they're on trial and you have a look at them. So we can't always get to do really in-depth, but regarding the recruitment process, this man here has probably the final say within the process, but it's not me turning up and saying, oh, there's Gary Holt. Paul, do you want to sign him?
Sorry, Dave. Sorry, I'm going to ask. Elaborate just on a couple of points that you made, Stuart. Can you just explain to everybody about the budget that we've got, whether players can't come here, also a bit about wage structure, and about attracting the right kind of player, and who's coming into the ground and who wants to get more.
If you want to be honest, I give Gordon grief every single day because I want more money, but that's my job. It's to question the board and ask for more money and continually ask for more money. But I know it's not going to happen all the time, because I know budgets, as Paul's talked about, is we work within our means. We're not a boom or bust, because we've seen too many clubs go to the wall. So regarding, and I'll give you a stat, guys, right, and ladies, 14 strikers I've put offers in. 14 strikers that we've made very good offers to, above, they would be at the top end of the wage. In fact, they'd be the highest earner at the club. Now, we have been blown out the water. Scott Robinson went to Kilmarnock for nearly double what we offered him. Declan McManus went to Wales, which I'm sure you all don't agree is a good league, but for treble his wages that he was getting in Dunfermline. Now, these board were willing to give me the money to go and do a transfer fee for him, but can we pay that amount of money on a weekly wage? Put all eggs in one basket that he gets injured? We can do it. That's why recruitment and looking at a squad is what it's about. Why Jamie Wilson comes in with the scope to go and learn and earn his trade. Full-time football. He's never had full-time football. But that's fine. But was you the best at your job when you first started? You learned your trade. You go and learn your trade. It's the same as any other one. Do you have sent him on loan to get game time, to get experience, to get confidence of playing? Because he's not, at the moment, he's not getting game time. So why have him in the building sitting about when I can get him out playing games? He's training with us every day, and he goes up and plays the games with Elgin. So it's a win-win. Aye, they're paying a contribution towards his wages, which is how it works. Aye, that's how loans work. We pay a contribution if we get loan players in. We don't pay a full wage. Yeah, but did I not stand up here and hold my hands up and say I'm not going to get them all right? I've told you this, but we could go back and forward the opinions of players all night long, but I'm giving you an indication of the process of what goes on. So whether you want to buy into that or not, that's your opinion. Okay, but I'm telling you the process of what we do as a club.
Thanks, Gary. I'm just going to call you hold on there for a second, because Phil Rollins wants to come in actually and talk about recruitment as well. So Phil, make your debut tonight. There we go. There you go, thank you.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start with an apology. I do apologise. I do not have COVID. I've been tested every single day, but I do have a bad cold, and so my voice isn't normally like this, so please bear with me. I apologise. Listen, there's a number of points that have been raised. I want to kind of see if I can summarise them and come to a couple of questions that I don't think were answered fully. If you think about, first of all, about the investment in the club, and there was a question about, have we over-invested in the infrastructure? No, I'll be honest with you. When we arrived at this club was on its arse, really, literally. And last year, the end of last year, was an accident waiting to happen, in my opinion. We kept the wheels on as long as we could, but they were eventually going to fly off, and they did. What we've got to do as a football club, if we're going to return Falkirk to where it should be, and you all know where that is because you're all lifetime supporters or you wouldn't be here. If we're going to return it to where it needs to be, then we need to invest both in the squad and in the infrastructure. We've given Gary and Paul probably, I think, the biggest, probably is by far the biggest wage bill in the league. Okay, we've not underinvested in the squad. We will not do that. But at the same time, we need to invest in the infrastructure, because you'll be back here hopefully next year and ask us what's happening with the youth squad. Okay, so we've got to build that in as well. You know, the fact that we took away the academy, in my opinion, was I mean, crazy decision. You've got to invest in your own. You want to see your own on the pitch, and we've got to do that, and that's what we've done. So we've invested in both places, in the infrastructure for the future, and in the short term for the squad. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about investment. And we talk, you know, Jamie, I've heard people say, well, why have we got a chief exec? We need a chief exec, and we need a chief exec of that man's quality, okay, to lead this club forwards and to take us where we need to be. We had, prior to that, a commercial director who wasn't the chief exec, okay? So we've replaced one for one. What's really changed, sir, is the name on the door. It's gone from commercial director to chief executive. Okay, why did we invest in Gary Holt? And it might not have been Gary, it might have been any of the 6 other people we interviewed. Right? We've invested in a sporting director because we've got to build out our infrastructure. We've got to get our contracts right. The contracts were in a complete mess from 2 years ago. Okay, I wasn't here, I don't know who put them together, but they were terrible. We've got to get those things right for the future because we want to build a successful long-term future for this football club. It starts now, and we all get that we've got to get promotion. We get it, okay? We wanted it last year, it wasn't going to happen. We want it this year, we're going to try and make it happen, God willing, in the very best way we can. But we're also going to build out the football club as well. So we're going to invest in both. We're not going to short one for the other, okay? And we're going to try and do it the right way, because what this club needs more than anything else is stability. 63 managers, 13 staff, sorry, 63 managers, 63 players, I wish, 13 staff, whatever it was, you know, 7 managers, 15 directors. You know, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again, but expect a different result on a Saturday. Give us a little bit, I'm asking for something that you've probably run out of, but give us a little bit of patience. Let us build this thing out. I've 22 years now as an owner director of a football club. Okay, Stoke are in exactly the same place that Falkirk was in when I joined the board. Okay, I remember sitting in front of a fans forum like this, where they basically wanted to kill the chairman, literally kill him. Yeah, no problem. Gary thinks it's got it bad. They carried a coffin up with Peter Coates' name on it, right? We were 7th in Division 1. Okay, it took us 8 years to get to the Premiership. We got there. Okay, along the way, we purchased the stadium, we built a new training ground, we did all those infrastructure things as well as regenerating our academy, which had all been shot to bits. Okay, in Orlando, it took us 5 years to get there, but we got there. Okay, we are trying our very best for you to get there for you, on both the pitch and off the pitch, because we want something that's sustainable. Okay, does that make sense? No, sir, that wasn't what I was saying. What I was doing was giving you examples. My point is that these things do take time, and I know people have asked you for that before, but I honestly don't think there's ever been a plan, if I'm frank with you, as to how to get there. And any business, whatever business you're involved in, wherever you work, whatever you do, you need a plan, and that plan needs to be sustainable and buildable. That's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Back to, sorry, but loads of questions tonight, so apologies. Going back to the emails, Lewis, what we got coming through?
So we have 7 questions relating to finances, and one of them is quite pertinent because it's related to what Phil has just spoke about there. This question's from Russell Kroll, and he says, in recent months a lot has been made by the board about the need to develop our infrastructure, a lot of which I agree with. We now, however, find ourselves in a situation where our non-playing costs, a chief exec, a sporting director, coaching staff, development squads, etc., while they may be required, our costs will be significantly higher than any other League One club. Meanwhile, commercial income is likely to be significantly down following the departure of Kieran and Alex, and ticketing income will fall based on recent performances. From the outside looking in, the sums simply don't add up. So, how long can this level of expenditure be maintained by the club? How will the expenditure be funded in the increasingly likely event of us not winning promotion and spending a 4th season in League One? And furthermore, what is the impact of not winning promotion on the playing squad budget and even potentially full-time status? Because while we all hope to win promotion, given the current league position and performances, it is important that the board are honest about the implications of not winning promotion this season.
Gordon.
Thanks. There's a lot of questions in there. I think the fact that, firstly, let me just talk about the funding at the football club and recognise where we are. As Phil said, we're in a period of investing in the future, and that takes money, as you can clearly appreciate. These guys will tell you that and Gary's right, he constantly asks for more money, and that's what he should do. We've never turned down a request for money to fund the right player coming into the football club. We will find ways to generate that money. And yes, the point about losing the commercial director, losing Alex, Totten, yeah, they're a blow. There's no doubt that that's a blow. We will almost certainly generate less commercial income into the club this year than we generated last year. We accept that, but that's a fact that we have to deal with. That's one of the reasons why Jamie's on board, is to try and rebuild those relationships with sponsors, with advertisers, and we're committed to do that. We're in the kind of worst place that you can be in Scottish football right now, as a full-time football team in League One that generates the least amount of income. Primarily that income comes from multiple sources. It comes from season tickets. We've had a fantastic year on season tickets, so that, the response from fans to buying season tickets has been tremendous, more than, quite honestly, we expected. People paying at the gate. Now, that again depends on how well we're doing in the park. It depends on what happens with away supporters. They're typically very small in our league, so that's important. Commercial income, sponsorship, hospitality, all of those things are important. And then possibly one of the biggest is what you get from being part of the Football League in Scotland through the SPFL. What probably many people don't realise is, if you win this league, in League One, you'll get £125,000 in prize money from the SPFL. £125,000. If you're 10th in the Premiership, you'll get £1.25 million. That's why, as a football club, we've got to be continued to invest to get us back to that place, because that's when you start to get to a point where the amount of income that you generate is consistent with the amount that you're able to spend on players. You can give Paul and Gary more money, you can compete at that end of the marketplace, and that's the challenge that we've got. So I don't think we've made any secret of the fact that we're in a period of investment right now. And we'll continue to have to invest in the club for the next few years. Question around what happens if we don't get promotion. That will be a tough question that we'll have to answer at some point in time. Right now, we are not planning to be in this league next year. We're planning to be in the Championship. Our financial plans, our objectives are to be in the Championship. So all of our financial plans are based on that. And as somebody said earlier, when you get to January, when you get to around that point in time in the year, if we think that is unrealistic, then we'll need to rethink. But right now, our plans are based on continuing full-time football at the football club and investing for the future. That's the current plan.
Gordon, can I just come back on that one point just to clarify? Are we saying then, is there a slight danger of potentially part-time football if we don't go up this year if all the projections are currently based on being on in the Championship next year?
So I think, Lewis, just on that, I mean, that almost, it's a question from the front about what's plan B as well.
Okay.
And it almost reiterates that. We're very clear, Gordon's very clear, that there has to be a plan B, because nobody wants that part-time football. So we are working on that. We have got plan B and plan C and plan D. So we're looking at different options. Do we need to bring in more investment? Yes. It's clear. Now, whether that is about sustaining another year, God forbid, in League One at full-time level to be able to get us up, and I'll go back to why that's really important, or whether it's about eventually being able to afford to be able to finish the stadium, for God's sake, we'll need investment. We cannot do that with the money that we've got at the moment. We need to be able to have that level of ambition to be able to get towards that level, but we need investment to be able to do that. So that's imperative. Why do we need to be able to do that? In my opinion, as a Falkirk fan, never mind Falkirk chairman, there's a change coming in Scottish football. We've seen it already, with a lot of external investment from America, from other places. We've got some clubs that are commissioning a review on behalf of the SPFL, as we've all read in the papers. I've had some discussions with some of these clubs. That's not the SPFL's decision, that's these clubs' decision, and the SPFL have been forced to go down that road. And what they want to be able to do, and I'll use the example, Dave Cormack's phoned me from Aberdeen and said, here's what we think is going to happen over time. We need to have criteria, and I'm sure we'll come back onto grass pitches at some point as a question, because I know it's out there. There'll be criteria that clubs have to be able to play at, and it almost goes back to Brockville days, or to have the facilities for, to be able to play at the top level. And if you've not got them, you'll not get to play. Now, I don't know for certain that that's how it's going to go. That's my guess, and that's how it feels. So we're going to have, call it an SPFL 1-2, or a division between 42 clubs, and you'll have a top 24 or whatever it is. Nobody's set that out yet. We want to be on that side of the bridge. Now, whether that's right for Scottish football or not is another matter, but we don't want to be on the wrong side of the bridge, so we have to invest, and we have to have that investment coming from other places. Phil and Carrie have put money into the club, and we need more of that. So Gordon's absolutely right. We keep that under constant review. Are we going to lose money this year? Absolutely. Do we want to be able to lose money next year? No, but we probably will, because we're not at the levels that Gordon's talking about to be able to generate the kind of funds that we need to be able to generate, the 1.25 millions or the 1.5 millions. The Dundee Uniteds of this world, who are leading this kind of review, are saying, well, it's Ron Gordon at Hibs. Ron Gordon's identified that instead of bringing 28 million, 27 million into Scottish football, it should be 50, 55 million. Well, great. If we can get to that top table and we can take a slice of a much larger cake, brilliant. But we're not there just now. But as far as I'm concerned, we cannot not try to be at that table, because it's that way we're going to be a Clyde or whatever team you want to be able to pick, and semi-pro, part-time, whatever. I don't want that, and I don't think any of us want that.
Thanks, Gary. Any questions from the back of the room? Have done from the back yet? Any of the guys at the back want to ask a question? Yeah, gentleman in the middle there. Just thanks, Jack. Again, just your name first, please, and then your question. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Stuart, and like many others, a long-suffering Falkirk fan for 30 years. I think the root cause of fans' unhappiness, we've heard a lot about like the infrastructure, the finances. It all comes down to the position that the club is in the league at the moment. We are well into our third season in League One, sitting fifth, and to be honest, we look exactly like a bang average League One side. Now, I'd argue, Gary says about the recruitment, what you've said, it's not sustainable. 65 players in, 63 out, doing the same things, you'll get the same results. I would argue the recruitment this year isn't any better than last year. You talk about Ryan Williamson coming in, he looks the right back that we've been needing since Kieran Duffy. Unfortunately, he's only played about 20 games in 3 years, he seems injured all the time. You've got Brad Mackay on a 3-year deal. He doesn't look any better than Mark Durnan. You've got 4 strikers, young strikers. You've got the boy on loan for Aberdeen. A lot of pressure on a rookie that's not had many senior games. None of them look better than Connor Salmon, Anton Dowds. These people that left the club last year, I don't think any in this room would argue that they should have been kept on, but what we've replaced them with, albeit Aidan Nisbet, Leon McCann as well looks a good player, but the recruitment doesn't look any better than it has the last year, the year before, and this is why Falkirk aren't in the Championship, aren't pushing to get in the Premiership, is because the recruitment has been so poor. The other, I suppose, statement, it's not going to be a question, and it's nothing personal against Gary and Paul, but the playing style, whether it's tactics, people getting chose for certain positions, how can we see the likes of Peterhead got away to Alloa, put 4 past them? How can we see Airdrie come to us, put 3 past us? How can we see Dumbarton go up to Peterhead, put 6 past them? We struggle to score goals. What's the, I suppose, what's the answer? If you knew it, we would be further up the league, but that's, just wanted to get it off my chest. Probably other people are feeling the same as well.
I appreciate that totally, and I think we spoke earlier about the defensive side of the pitch as well, and the blend at the minute is exactly that. We're no scoring and we're no keeping clean sheets. The clean sheets is the biggest bugbear for me, because as much as we're no scoring, we're continuing to create chances other than probably Saturday. So I'd be more worried if we weren't creating chances. Yes, we need to be more clinical, definitely. But as it stands, the biggest bugbear for me is the goals we're conceding, and is something that we really need to rectify, because we will score goals with the opportunities we're creating. The law averages say we will turn them into goals. There's no getting away for that, and I'm more than confident we'll do that. So from my point of view, personally, the biggest part is the defensive side of things, and getting that right. And I appreciate you getting that off your chest again. I'm fully understanding that both sides of the pitch needs to be better, and I'll continue to try and tweak things to make it that way. In terms of the recruitment, again, I think without repeating ourselves, I don't know if you want to go over it again or not. You okay? There's no coincidence in that, definitely, but I don't want to stand here and make that an excuse, because we should have more than just Callum Morrison to change football matches. Definitely, it shouldn't be, and I'm conscious of that as well, and I didn't want to stand here and say, oh, woe this and woe that Morrison's out, Williamson's out. It's not the case. We need to be better. We need to be better without him in the team. Arguably, is it? I think yes. I think in time, yes, it will be, with a bit more direction to beyond that first build. Once we get beyond that, we need to be a wee bit more direct and a wee bit quicker. I don't think they've not got heart. I think that's couldn't be further for the truth. Understand that. Understand. How? Yeah. I get that as well. But I've came in here and I've got an idea how I want to play football, and you'll maybe disagree with my ideas. I will continue to try and implement a style that I think will ultimately suit us in time. It may take a little longer than certainly you hope, and I think Phil already has spoke about patience. I'm still confident in my ability to make things better, and again, with your support and your backing, I'm hopeful that as a club we get that right. Understand the physicality side of it, but when you're looking to play a certain way, it can't always be that.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, we're going to go back to the onlines again. 20 minutes to go tonight, so we'll try and cram as much in as we can. Lewis, got another question for the online guys?
Sure, we've had contact this afternoon from the Navy Blue group, and they have a question that was related to an answer given at the previous Q&A. And their question is, why did Gordon Colbourn say at the last Q&A he did not know the size of the offer from the Navy Blue Group when there was a letter sent to all of the directors on the 14th of May 2021 with a figure in it?
I'm not sure you can remember the 14th of May 2021. I certainly can. I think what I said at the time was, yes, there were discussions with the Navy Blue Group. Numbers had been bandied around in those discussions. There almost certainly was a number contained in several of the communications between the Navy Blue Group and the club, but there was never a firm offer. There was a number quoted that had a number of conditions attached to it. The club went back on those conditions. I think I said at the time as well that we offered to meet with the Navy Blue Group. That offer was refused and the meeting never took place.
Okay, any comeback on that, Lewis?
So yes, there was a figure quoted. I'm not denying that. I think I said at the time that there was little point in banding around stuff that was confidential between the parties. Yeah, I mean, you want me to quote a figure? £500,000.
Just quickly, there was a figure of £500,000. There was also a figure talked about £600,000.
Gary, can you just take the mic, please, so we can, the guys at the back can hear. Thank you.
Sorry, there was a figure of talked about £500,000. There was also a figure bandied about £600,000. There was, as Gordon said there was numerous conditions attached to all these kind of things. And what we said, and actually there was a meeting set up on Zoom, as ever, with Phil and Carrie and Gordon and Gordon Wright as well, not me. To go through and discuss how do we make this work, and it was pulled by the Navy Blue, not by us. So the door was open to have these discussions, and they stopped them. So it is not the case that we've turned away investment. We haven't. In fact, some of the patrons who were involved, maybe not all the Navy Blue, but some of the patrons who were involved, we met Gordon Wright. When did we meet them? Last Thursday. About do they want to be able to invest in the club. We've made presentations to local business people about whether they want to be able to invest in the club. The door is open, but the door is open to sensible offers, and it goes back to what we were saying earlier on, and I don't want to rake over coals, but it goes back to why Ken, you're saying that we're spending too much time, or he's gone, sorry, why Ken said we're spending too much time in the constitutional stuff. We're dragged into it all the time. Because people want to have that kind of discussion and say that we've been lying to them or that we've not delivered on promises or whatever. It's not true. The door has always been open to these discussions.
Gary, can I just clarify then on the back of that question, are we saying that if the Navy Blue Group were, and I don't know if they are or are not, but if they were to come back to the table with some form of offer, that the board would be willing to sit down and discuss?
We always have been.
Okay.
On your terms.
No, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
No, every deal, I spend my life doing deals. That's my day job. Every deal is a negotiation. Every deal. And you've got to sit down and you've got to work it out. That's what a deal is. To deliver a document, or a letter, but to deliver a document and say, we want to be able to invest, let's take that figure of £500,000, and here's the conditions of our investment, otherwise we're not interested. You need to sit down and talk about that. But there was no willingness to sit down and talk. There was a meeting scheduled, I can't remember, Phil, was it a Thursday evening or something like that, or whatever it was. There was a meeting scheduled and it was pulled on the Wednesday. Yes. Sorry? Is that the best interest for you to stay? That it never came up because they walked away. It never came up because it walked away. That wasn't a condition that failed. The investment was failed on. We never got to that point. So, personally, was that something that was stopping the deal? No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It never got to that level of discussion, which was why I wasn't involved in it. And because it was important that I wasn't involved in it. There's this bit about, and sorry, this is very personal, there's this bit about being an independent chairman. What's important that I am independent, that I'm not aligned with somebody, that I'm sitting here or I'm standing here tonight saying that I'm trying to do the best to hold together the club and the different interests in the club. But some people don't want that. Some people want their own interests, and the way I deal with it, and you can say it's wrong, is I try and represent all interests. But that has to be on a reasonable basis. And the offers that were made and the conditions attached to that, sack this person, do that, do this, do the next thing. No. You've got to sit down and talk about these kind of things and be reasonable.
Okay, we've got 10 minutes left then, peoples. I've got a question. Yep, just one hand up at the back there. Yep. Just, Jack, if you can get the mic up there, please. Thank you.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say, I think Falkirk fans are probably the most patient in the bloody league. We've had 5 years of watching absolute dross, and yet we're still getting 4,000 every week. Now, you look at teams like Airdrie, Ayr United, all these teams that have spent time down here. They're lucky they're getting 1,000 these days, but we're still backing the team every year. Every summer, we're asked to back the team. Phil Rollins has just said the other now that we've got the biggest budget in this league. Okay? So why are we underachieving year in, year out? Our recruitment, again, not good enough. Okay? It needs to be better or we'll never ever get out of here, and we need to start seeing improvement. Saturday was a disgrace. It was an absolute disgrace. There was no fight, there was no football, there was nothing. The down tools, Steve, the boy Hetherington is a captain. No chance. He did nothing. He did absolutely nothing on Saturday. We need to start seeing improvement and improvement now. Saturday was a start. If we'd started the season off poorly, and then we saw a slight improvement as the time goes on, that's one thing. But no, we struggled against East Fife, but at least we got a win, okay? Now, that should have been the sign for us to go up again. Then we get Saturday again, it's back down again. I can't see any improvement whatsoever. We're getting worse. The stats show that we've won 5 games out of our last 20 in the 3rd division of Scottish football. And that is unacceptable for a club the size of Scottish Falkirk. Absolutely unacceptable.
I'm going to pass the mic to either Paul or Gary and let them answer some of the stuff that you're talking about. Nobody is saying it's acceptable. We find it unacceptable too. I had a discussion at the end of the game with somebody on Saturday, a discussion, argument, whatever you want to be able to call it. But I had a discussion with somebody, and he was saying, I'm saying it's acceptable. None of us are saying Saturday was acceptable. But nobody's saying it was acceptable. So the discussion we were having today was about what have we learned and how are we going to get improvement. So, it was about right. Well, let me. Well, let me pass that to Gary. Let me pass that to Paul and Gary, because we've covered a lot of this stuff, and Dave's chaired this very, very well. We've covered a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. But are any of us saying that Saturday was acceptable? Absolutely not. And are any of us saying that where we are as a football club's acceptable? Absolutely not. This is about how do we get it better.
What was that? I'm scratching my head because I so want to be better. I know, because I want to be better. I'll continue with your frustration in losing games, and Saturday was particularly galling. But don't for one moment think that I don't feel that frustration, anger. But what I would say is I've got a group of players that continue to work hard day in, day out. Day in, day out. Give me everything. Sorry. I don't think they don't work on a Saturday. I think that's unfair, wholly unfair, because I don't think they don't work. It's no through lack of effort. And again, I'll take accountability for performance levels, but it is not lack of effort. And I can confidently stand here that it's no lack of effort. It's not through lack of effort, and the numbers tell me that. I get the numbers through analysis week in, week out. Exactly, but you're telling me it's lack of effort. It's not lack of effort. The numbers tell me that. Yep, and I've covered that already in terms of, I have, in terms of opportunities created, and they'll turn. They'll turn. Yeah, I get that, and again, that's on me. That's the way I like to not play, but there has to be a purpose to when we're going back to the goalkeeper and going backwards. There's a reason for it. There's a reason for it, and right now we're not getting the right balance of when we get teams towards us on the press, beating that press. We're missing out on that in a minute, and it's something that we are working on as of today. And previously, and then it just has to turn into how it wins, opportunities, and taking those opportunities. But there is a reason for why we play that way, is to bring the press on. But I do understand that we need to be more direct once we get that, break the lines of that first build. I totally understand that.
Okay,
hold on.
Can I stay quick? Gary, you want to speak?
Yeah, no, but just can we, if we're all shouting out at the same time, we can't address the individual points. There's a guy with his hand up there. No, well,
yeah, I've got two more questions. Gentleman there with the hand up. Yeah.
Paul. From academy football. Well, I like to think so, although it's not bearing fruit at the moment, but I was fortunate enough that I'd worked with the first team as well as the academy stuff, so I'm always learning. I'll continue to learn. I'm no one that just sits back and thinks I know it all, and I'm far from that. So yes, I think I've learnt enough on there to stand me in good stead in the job, absolutely.
Okay, gentleman there, yeah.
To actually play the style of football.
I actually do.
You do?
I do, yes.
Wow.
I do.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, a couple more questions before we go. There's a hand up right at the back. Yeah. Yeah, right at the back. There we go, Jack. See the hand up there, right at the back? I'm concerned we're ignoring people at the back, so let's get that one done. Thank you. Your name first, please, and your question.
It's Dawn Smiley. I wanted to ask Paul, when he first came in, he said we wanted to play attacking football. He's playing defensive, but the ball's not forward at all. So, you know, we're losing the ball more than actually passing it forward. So how are we going to score goals? How are we going to win? And the part-time teams look fitter than what we are, and we're the full-time team.
Firstly, I wish we were playing defensive, then I wouldn't be conceding goals week in, week out. That's one thing. In terms of, again, the backward passing that we just spoke about, there is more than the reason just to pass the ball backwards, and I think I've briefly mentioned that in terms of trying to bring teams onto us and invite that press and go beyond it, and I'm no stood here saying we don't do that well enough at the minute. So I think previous to the couple of weeks that we've just had, I think the 2 games before that, I think we created 34, or we had 34 shots on goal. Granted, not all on target, so it suggests we are getting in the right areas of the pitch. We just need to be more clinical within those areas.
Lewis, a question from the emails, please.
Yep, one regarding team selection. It's one for Paul again. This comes from Graham McNabb. Graham says, I can't help but feel that Stephen Hetherington slows our play down far too much. Why is Arnaldo Krasniqi not getting games ahead of Hetherington? He was brought in because the manager said, and I quote, we needed height and physical presence in midfield, but he can't get a look in. If Krasniqi doesn't get games, Huddersfield will rightfully recall him in January, and he looks the far better option of the two players. So, is Stephen Hetherington undroppable simply because he's captain, in which case surely our former Scotland international Paul Dixon seems the obvious choice for captain anyway, since he's the only leader we have.
No player's undroppable, and in terms of the comparisons of EK and Stevie Hetherington, and I know this might be a bit unpopular, but Stevie for me is one of our most important players at the moment. I think and in terms of the comparisons to EK, EK's still got an awful lot to learn, and the defensive side of the game is a long way away from it at the moment, and he has been a bit part player. So there's he was signed firstly because it was an opportunity to build a relationship with a football club that's got a tradition of producing good players, so it allows us that relationship. Secondly, I'm not really want to give too much away, but in terms of the cost, it was pretty cost effective bringing Big EK into the club as cover for what we're given. But he's still got a lot to learn, is the bottom line with Arnaldo. He's a brilliant boy, he's working hard, and he'll get opportunities at some stage.
Okay, one final question. We're past our time. I'm going to go to the front here, and this lady right here, so you can take my microphone. There you go.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Kerry. We all just want a successful team in the pitch. We don't want people to think the fans are against us. We all want the same thing at the end of the day. Two of our best players, Robbie Much and Paul Dixon, are sitting on the bench against Airdrie. We're 2-0 down. Paul Dixon for me has been immense for the last 3 years. Robbie Much saved a penalty against Montrose, and they're all sitting on the bench. We understand that we can't be specific in why people are playing and some why aren't, but to me that's ridiculous. And no offence, Paul, but
no offence taken, none whatsoever. And there is different reasons at different times for leaving certain people out. I felt at the time that Paddy, who had been really good, and I still stand by that decision to bring Paddy into the team, and I think he's done well since he's been in the team. I just felt we needed a change at that stage to try and give me some sort of different impetus to the team. Dicker for me has been brilliant, really good around the place, brilliant professional, and I honestly believe that Dicker, if he was stood here now, would be the first person to say his form over the last month hasn't been good enough. And again, we're conceding goals. I'm doing all I can to change it, and I'll continue to do that. I mean, if I stick with that same back four, it's conceding goals week in, week out. You'd ask questions as well, so I'm still striving to get the right balance of that back four. That's the bottom line.
Okay, we've got 10 more minutes. We've been allowed 10 more minutes anyway by the hotel. So back to Lewis at the moment. Another question. There's loads of questions online. So another one, Lewis, please.
Yeah, I think out of the pile that we have left, we had 57 questions from fans who couldn't make it along tonight, and I think it would be a shame not to ask the one positive question that we actually had. So it comes from Scott Heron, and it's for Gary Holt. And it says, with the return of the academy so far being a success, with many positive results for the young teams at the moment, is there a timeline when you expect to feed some of these players through into the first team squad?
There's already some through, Lewis, to be honest. Just to give you a wee indication, one of the mandates when I came in was about restarting the youth. How do we do it? How do we look at it? And I'll stand here and I'll back myself that we're not going down the route of what we had before. It's not cost effective. It really isn't. To have under 9s, under 10s, under 11s all the way through, it's not cost effective. So we're going to run it in a way that 16s and 18s we might tweak a wee bit older age group, but we're always looking, we're always bringing the next ones in, so we're underpinning that. So we've got boys through already, because the 3 young ones, and I think Mackenzie's the one that's kicked on the best, to be honest, but they all came in at the start in May with a bag of balls and a bag of bibs, and no players. So it was a open doors, let everybody in, let's have a look and let's see what we can get, and thankfully we've managed to mould it into to 2 very good sides. But they're young, which we wanted. They are young, but they're very good, they're eager, they're keen. But the 3 boys initially who came in were too good for us at 18s, and I offered them to come in and do pre-season. And as you say, Cammy played at Cove, he's played at Montrose as well, started. Ben came on and scored in the League Cup game, and Mackenzie, as we know, has played a few games as well. So I'm ahead of the curve, 100% in that aspect. Did I expect that? No, not at all. But I think I did say to the board that I felt there was diamonds out there that we could find. I do believe that there is diamonds that we can find, and that's shown with the 3 that have come in. We've also got one of the other under 18s in at the moment, training with the first team. Not at the moment, but we do have one in the 18s that we like. But it's just a process. It's a learning process for us all. We ain't going to get it right all the time, as I said. I'm big enough to stand here and say I make mistakes. I make more mistakes than everybody. But it's not through lack of effort and lack of commitment. Stats say it should be 3 to 5 years before you get players through in a regular curve, and I think we had that before, but the academy was running for that. It's 5 years before we started seeing the fruits of it. I don't believe that for us, because we want to make it run quicker. We want to make players come through. I want to see players coming out the tunnel that are locally bred, shall I say. That's my aim. That's my target to give, so we don't have to keep going and getting so many players. We don't have to keep going searching for players that don't have an affinity with the club and don't buy into what we're trying to build. That's my biggest thing, to give the manager the opportunity. We've got all these boys that are inbred in what we are, the foundation of the club, so we're getting there with it. There are some successes. The 16s got their backsides felt against Aberdeen recently, but that was a learning curve for them, that we're here, but we want to get to here. So we've got some games coming up. We're away to Newcastle, which is a wee bit daunting, but we'll give it a good go. But it's the levels we want to reach to show them. But there's a power of work goes in it. I'm not going to lie, it's a power of work, and that's probably takes a bit of my focus as well to get that up and running at the moment. And Paul has a big part in it, because he gets to watch most of the games and gets to see what's coming through. And as I said, I don't bring a player in and say, right, you're having him. It's Paul's recommendation as well. Who do we look at? Who do we like? Let's have a look at them. Can we get them in an environment to see if they can handle it? Because as you are aware, as you go to games, it's a harsh environment, and we are certainly a young squad, and hopefully they can thrive on it. Because a wee bit with the youngsters, they have no fear, which helps, because they come in and they don't know what's expected of them, and they just go, I like this, I can do it. So it's well on its way, Lewis, but it's big work ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm there Tuesday, Thursday, Friday nights. We're having, I think, Jamie, we've been looking at after COVID now, and schools are opening up and we're allowed to go into schools again. We're trying to build all them relationships back up to get underpin that, because I want local boys associated with the club. I want local boys coming through our academy. And I'm not going to lie, see, building relationships with clubs and local clubs, I get the phone put down in me, I get a few nice choice emails, I get told to F off regular because they think we're still. I don't know, but that's in the past and I can't talk about that. But it's hard to build that, and we try to build them relationships. So we have an input with the community, we have an input with all the community sides. I've even took some sessions with the girls' teams and things like that. So it's trying to be an all-inclusive club. We're trying to build the relationships that we are all-inclusive with the community, with the women's team as well, not just the boys, because it's all-inclusive. So going ahead with the youths, we want to make it work. We have to make it work because we want a sustainable club. Simple as that. And I think, I look back at my time when I was here as manager, and I'm not going to lie, when I left and years later I seen that they scrapped it, it was probably a dagger, because you worked with a lot of them young ones and you spent time with them young ones. So to see it happening again, to see the smile in their faces and the work ethic that they've got, the young boys. And don't get me wrong, I try to sell the dream that they're not going to make it, and I tell them that for day one. They're not all going to make it. Percentages tell you that it's less than 1% make it through. But to have 3 that's in the group at the moment, learning their trade, getting experiences, it makes me a wee bit proud of that aspect, and long may it continue.
Thanks, Gary. Just a wee bit more on the youth side of the club. We're going to hear for the first time tonight from Jamie Swinney. Jamie.
Good evening. I was almost not getting an opportunity there to speak. So just first of all, it is a genuine honour to be the Chief Executive of this football club. Whether you think we should have a Chief Executive or not, I'm not going to take any offence. All I will do is my very, very best for this club. And as I say, it's an honour to be here. With regards to the youth development, just want to touch briefly on that. I was part of the academy for 5 years before its closure, and it's something that is very close to my heart. So I'm delighted that we do have a pathway again for young players to represent this football club. I think it's something that was very, very important to the club's identity for a long time. I used to love coming here and coming to the Falkirk Stadium and watching players that we coached play for this football club. So fantastic that we're doing that again. And just one point on the foundation, or our links with the community. Again, I think it's something that potentially the club has lost a little bit in terms of that relationship with the town, that pride in the club and pride in the town. And we'll work very hard to get that back, and that starts off with the Falkirk Foundation. So we've already started to do a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that the foundation and the club there's a lot of synergy there, a very close working relationship, and I think that's important to the future of the club, and we'll do our very best to make sure that that relationship is as strong as it possibly can be.
Thanks, Jamie. I'm just going to hand you over to Gary now just to sum up the evening and draw things to a close. So Gary, thank you.
I knew it would be difficult. I knew it would be a difficult evening, and I appreciate there's a lot of passion kicking about in the room. There's a lot of passion kicking about in the Saturdays and watching where we are. There's a lot of frustration. I really do appreciate the questions, and at times it's been heated, but you've conducted yourselves well in the main, probably better than I expected. So I thank you for coming, and I thank you for your honesty, and I thank you for giving us the space for being able to talk to you. As I said, as Phil said, as everybody else has said, we're doing our damnedest to get us back to where we all want to be able to be. We need your support. We talk about the 12th man at the stadium. We know what that can be. I know it's more difficult here for those of us that are a certain age. I know it's more difficult at the Falkirk Stadium than it is at Brockville, but we need it. The players need it. The youngsters who are coming along, who want to be able to come to play for Falkirk, or we're trying to entice the Falkirk, need it. So you're vital. That support for us is absolutely vital. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, forgive me, talked about the phenomenal number of season tickets that we sell, and we still consistently get the numbers coming through the door, and that's really, really appreciated. Fantastic support that we've got, and I'm proud to be a Falk supporter. I'm proud to be chairman of the Falkirk Football Club, whether you like it or not. I'm proud. But we need your support, and everybody in the club needs your support on a continual basis to get behind the guys, to try and make sure that we're getting better in every aspect of what we're talking about. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it, as I say, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon.
Thank you, Gary. I just want to final reminder to everyone that if you missed any of this tonight, if you want to go back and watch any of it again, if you're that way inclined and you're that sadistic, you want to watch all this again, then you can do tomorrow night. It'll be on Falkirk TV. The guys have been filming it this evening. So on behalf of the club, everyone here at the top table tonight, big thank you for your attendance this evening, and have a safe journey home. Thank you very much. Good night.